The loudest victory is often the one that ends in silence. 5 seconds. That was all the time recorded on the massive training arena display before every conversation inside the Galactic Military Academy stopped at once. A bright white number hovered above the polished combat platform. 5.0 seconds. Thousands of cadets from more than 100 star systems stared without blinking beneath the transparent dome that revealed an endless ocean of distant stars. No one cheered. No one moved. Even the quiet hum of the station's environmental systems seemed to fade beneath the impossible scene unfolding at the center of the arena. Human Cadet Logan Brooks stood perfectly still, his breathing slow and controlled, his polished Navy training uniform untouched by panic or excitement. His blonde hair caught the cold light spilling from the ceiling panels, while his blue eyes remained focused on the person standing only a few feet away. General Arya Voss slowly straightened her posture after the training exchange had ended. Her silver command uniform reflected the arena lights with quiet elegance. Her pale gray eyes rested on Logan without anger, embarrassment, or frustration. Instead, they carried something far more unsettling: curiosity. Around the circular arena, instructors exchanged uncertain glances. Senior officers whispered to one another behind elevated observation glass. Hundreds of recording drones floated silently overhead, capturing every angle of the demonstration that no one had expected to witness. The Academy had welcomed thousands of cadets across 6 centuries. No first-year human had ever become the center of attention this quickly. The digital timer continued glowing above them, as though unwilling to let anyone forget the number. 5 seconds. Logan had not celebrated. He had not spoken. The exercise had already ended, and his hands now rested calmly behind his back in perfect military posture. Several alien cadets looked from the general to the young human, struggling to understand what had happened so quickly. One quietly whispered, "Did he actually stop her?" Another answered without taking his eyes from the platform, "He released immediately." A third shook his head. That was not victory. That was control. General Arya slowly glanced toward the suspended timer before returning her attention to Logan. The enormous arena remained completely silent. She finally spoke in a calm voice that carried effortlessly across the chamber. "Cadet Brooks." Logan answered immediately. "Yes, General. Why did you let go?" Thousands of cadets leaned forward almost instinctively. It was the question every person in the arena wanted answered. Logan did not hesitate, because the exercise was over. The answer drifted through the vast chamber like a quiet breeze moving across still water. It contained no pride, no challenge, no attempt to impress anyone. General Arya studied him for several long seconds without speaking. Somewhere high above the arena, one instructor quietly lowered a digital tablet. Another officer slowly folded his arms. Neither seemed interested in the timer anymore. They were watching the human instead. Logan remained perfectly composed beneath thousands of curious eyes. His pulse stayed steady. His breathing never changed. The Academy had trained every cadet to remain calm under pressure, but calmness born from discipline looked very different from calmness born from confidence. General Arya recognized the difference immediately. The silence stretched even longer before she finally looked toward the chief training official seated beside the observation platform. "Freeze today's recording." The official blinked once before nodding. "Immediately, General." Every display around the arena stopped on the exact same frame. Logan standing upright, the general facing him. 5.0 seconds suspended above them like a question no one could answer. A young cadet near the rear of the arena quietly whispered, "How is that possible?" An older instructor answered just as softly, "That is not the question you should be asking." The cadet frowned. "Then what is?" The instructor never looked away from the platform. Asked why the human stopped when he could have continued. Logan heard none of it. His attention never wandered from the commanding officer standing before him. Whatever happened during those 5 seconds clearly mattered to everyone else. To him, it had simply been another completed exercise. General Arya slowly walked one deliberate step closer, the polished floor reflecting both figures beneath the cold white lights. Her expression remained impossible to read. "Cadet Brooks," she said quietly, "1 hour ago, you were unknown to this academy." She paused, allowing the words to settle across the silent arena. "Now, every person here wants to understand how those 5 seconds happened." Logan answered with the same calm voice that had never once risen above respect. "Then perhaps they should begin with what happened before those 5 seconds ever started. 1 hour earlier, the Galactic Military Academy looked almost peaceful. Artificial morning light spread across towering silver corridors designed to imitate the gentle sunrise of Earth, warming polished floors that reflected hundreds of cadets moving toward their first advanced tactical evaluation. The station drifted silently above a blue gas giant nearly 40,000 miles below, while transport shuttles glided between docking platforms with flawless precision. Logan Brooks adjusted the collar of his Navy cadet uniform before stepping out of his small quarters. Everything about the morning felt ordinary. The academy clock announced 0700 hours. Training drones floated through the hallways, carrying equipment to nearby classrooms. Instructors reviewed schedules through holographic displays suspended above their wrists. Fresh coffee and warm bread filled the air from the central dining hall, where cadets from dozens of civilizations quietly prepared for another demanding day. Logan walked with measured confidence, greeting every instructor with respectful eye contact and every classmate with a polite nod. Some returned the gesture. Others barely acknowledged the human cadet passing through their conversations. He had grown accustomed to that during his first 3 months at the academy. Humans remained a relatively new member species, and many cadets still viewed them as emotional, unpredictable, or overly competitive. Logan never argued against those assumptions. He believed people changed opinions through observation, not debate. As he crossed the eastern courtyard, he noticed several first-year cadets struggling to move a heavy gravitation simulator onto a maintenance platform. Without saying a word, he stepped beside them, helped stabilize the equipment until it locked safely into position, then thanked the maintenance crew before continuing toward Combat Instruction Hall 3. None of the cadets even learned his name. That never bothered him. Inside the training complex, rows of observation seats overlooked a circular practice platform surrounded by adaptive force fields capable of safely simulating countless combat environments. The polished surface beneath the overhead lights resembled white stone, although it was actually an advanced composite material designed to absorb tremendous impact without damage. Hundreds of cadets gradually filled the surrounding seats while instructors quietly discussed the morning exercise. Logan found his assigned position beside Cadet Elena Ward, another human exchange student. She lowered her voice. "Have you heard the rumors?" Logan looked toward the empty platform. "Which ones?" "General Arya Voss is personally evaluating first-year cadets today." Logan raised one eyebrow slightly. "That is unusual." Elena nodded. "She almost never leaves senior command." Before Logan could answer, the academy speakers chimed once. Every conversation ended immediately. Chief Training Officer Marcus Hale stepped onto the platform, wearing a dark gray instructor uniform marked by decades of service. His calm voice echoed throughout the arena. "Today's exercise is not a tournament. It is not a competition. It is an evaluation of judgment under pressure. Technique matters. Character matters more." Several cadets exchanged curious glances. Marcus continued. "You will not know your evaluation criteria in advance. Respond naturally. Observe carefully. Remember that every decision communicates something about the officer you may someday become." Logan listened quietly. Those words reminded him of conversations he once shared with his father during weekend training sessions back home in Colorado. His father had never served as a famous soldier. He had worked as a rescue instructor teaching emergency response teams how to protect people during disasters. Every lesson ended with the same reminder. Control is measured by what you choose not to do. Logan carried that sentence more carefully than any medal. The massive arena doors slowly opened. Every cadet stood automatically as General Arya Voss entered without ceremony. Her silver command uniform reflected the brilliant white lights above, while her calm pale gray eyes examined the room with practiced precision. She did not appear intimidating because she raised her voice. She appeared intimidating because she never needed to. Absolute confidence surrounded her like quiet gravity. She walked directly onto the training platform and surveyed the assembled cadets for several silent moments. Finally, she spoke. Today I am not looking for the strongest fighter. Her gaze slowly moved across hundreds of faces before stopping unexpectedly on Logan Brooks. I'm looking for the future officer who understands the difference between winning a contest and carrying responsibility. Logan met her eyes respectfully without realizing that within the next hour, every lesson his father had ever taught him would be tested before the entire academy. General Arya Voss allowed the silence to settle before she moved again. She believed silence revealed more about a soldier than any shouted command. Across the immense training arena, more than 2,000 cadets stood motionless beneath the transparent dome, while bright white light reflected from polished composite flooring. No one knew which name she would call first. No one dared to guess. The general slowly descended the platform steps and walked along the front rank, her measured footsteps echoing through the chamber with perfect rhythm. Every cadet fixed their eyes forward as she passed. Some tightened their shoulders. Others unconsciously slowed their breathing. Logan Brooks remained exactly as he had been instructed, feet shoulder-width apart, hands relaxed behind his back, eyes forward. Calm. General Arya stopped directly in front of him. She studied his face without speaking. Her pale gray eyes searched for nervousness, pride, fear, or resentment. Logan offered none of them, only quiet attention. Around the arena, instructors exchanged curious glances. They had watched the general conduct evaluations for nearly 15 years. She always searched beyond technique. She searched for character hidden beneath pressure. Finally, she spoke. Cadet Brooks. Yes, General. Look at me. Logan lifted his eyes without hesitation. Their gaze met beneath the cold academy lights. Neither looked away. Several cadets shifted uncomfortably. Even experienced officers rarely held the general's attention for more than a few seconds. She slowly circled him once before stopping again. You trained before entering this academy? Yes, General. Military background? No, General. Private instructor? Logan answered honestly. My father. A faint murmur spread through nearby observation seats. General Arya tilted her head slightly. Was your father a decorated warrior? No, General. Special operations? No, General. Professional combat instructor? Logan quietly shook his head. He taught civilian rescue teams. Several cadets exchanged puzzled looks. The answer seemed almost disappointing. General Arya remained expressionless. Rescue work teaches combat. Logan answered with complete sincerity. It teaches responsibility. Before anyone expected another question, the general raised one open hand and lightly tapped the side of Logan's face with two controlled fingers. The gesture carried almost no force. It was not punishment. It was not anger. It was a deliberate interruption designed to invade personal space and provoke emotion. The arena froze. Hundreds of cadets widened their eyes. A few instructors immediately understood the purpose of the exercise. Others waited to see what the human would do. Logan never moved. His breathing remained steady. He neither stepped backward nor leaned forward. He simply continued meeting the general's eyes with respectful composure. 5 seconds passed. Then 10. General Arya spoke again. Why did you not react? Logan answered quietly. Because you were testing my judgment, not my pride. The general's expression remained unreadable, but Chief Training Officer Marcus Hale slowly folded his arms with growing interest. General Arya took one careful step backward. Most cadets mistake surprise for permission to lose discipline. Logan nodded once. My father said that emotions arrive before decisions. That does not mean they should make them. The arena became silent again. General Arya slowly removed her command gloves and handed them to a nearby officer. "Very well, Cadet Brooks." She walked toward the exact center of the circular platform and motioned for Logan to join her. He obeyed immediately, stopping 6 feet away in the designated starting position marked by 2 silver lines embedded within the floor. Force field emitters quietly activated around the platform with a soft blue glow, signaling the beginning of a supervised demonstration. Marcus Hale addressed the assembled cadets. "Observe carefully. This evaluation measures control, awareness, restraint, and decision-making. No score will be based upon dominance." Logan settled into a balanced, ready stance, exactly as Academy protocol required. Across from him, General Arya mirrored the posture with effortless precision. Neither displayed aggression. Neither appeared eager to prove superiority. They simply waited. Above them, the digital training system illuminated and prepared to begin its countdown. Thousands of cadets leaned forward in complete silence, unaware that the next few seconds would become one of the most studied lessons in the Academy's history. The arena lights shifted from white to pale blue as the training system announced the beginning of the evaluation. A calm electronic voice echoed through the chamber. "Scenario begins in 3, 2, 1. No alarm followed. No dramatic music filled the air. Only silence. General Arya Voss moved first. Her steps were smooth and economical, revealing decades of disciplined training rather than speed alone. Logan Brooks watched every movement without allowing his eyes to lock onto a single detail. His father had once told him that the hands often lied, but the shoulders never did. He remembered those quiet mornings inside a modest rescue training center back in Colorado, where every lesson began with observation instead of action. Across the polished platform, General Arya closed the distance with measured confidence. Her expression remained calm, almost unreadable. There was no hostility in her posture. The exercise was never designed to create a winner. It was designed to expose judgment under pressure. Logan understood that before either of them had taken the first step. Around the circular arena, thousands of cadets watched without speaking. The only sound came from the faint hum of the protective field surrounding the platform and the distant circulation system hidden behind the Academy walls. Chief Training Officer Marcus Hale folded his hands behind his back. Several senior instructors quietly activated recording devices, ensuring every movement would become part of the Academy archives. General Arya reached forward with controlled precision, introducing the first phase of the evaluation exactly as written in the instructor's manual. Logan responded instinctively, not by resisting, but by adjusting his position just enough to remain balanced. His breathing stayed slow, his shoulders relaxed. Every movement remained compact, efficient, and almost invisible unless someone knew exactly what to watch. General Arya immediately transitioned into the second sequence, changing direction with remarkable fluidity. Logan recognized the pattern. It was not an attack. It was a progressive stress test intended to measure timing, awareness, and emotional discipline. Instead of forcing an opening, he simply allowed the motion to continue until the correct moment revealed itself naturally. Then everything happened almost too quickly for the untrained eye to follow. Logan stepped half a pace to the side. His right hand redirected the general's forward motion, while his left hand gently guided her wrist into a controlled training hold recognized throughout the Academy curriculum. The movement contained no excess force, no unnecessary flourish, and no attempt to embarrass his instructor. It existed for one purpose only: to demonstrate control. The digital timer above the platform stopped immediately. 5.0 seconds. General Arya remained perfectly balanced despite the training hold. Logan noticed that instantly. He also noticed the electronic tone confirming the scenario had officially ended. Without waiting for praise, instruction, or acknowledgement, he immediately released the hold, stepped backward exactly 2 paces, and returned to the Academy-ready position with his hands behind his back. His eyes lowered briefly in respectful recognition that the exercise had concluded. The arena remained silent. Several cadets looked toward the timer before looking back toward the platform, as if expecting the demonstration to continue. It never did. General Arya slowly rotated her wrist once, not because she needed to recover, but because she was evaluating the precision of Logan's technique. Her expression revealed nothing. Chief Training Officer Marcus Hale glanced toward the digital records projected above the observation deck. Every measurement confirmed what everyone had just witnessed. Response time: 5 seconds. Technical accuracy: within Academy standards. Force applied: minimal. Control maintained: complete. One instructor quietly whispered, "He followed the manual exactly." Another answered just as softly, "No, he followed its purpose." General Arya looked directly at Logan once more. She had evaluated thousands of cadets during her career. Many had demonstrated exceptional speed. Others possessed extraordinary strength. A few displayed natural tactical brilliance. Yet very few had ever shown something far more difficult to teach. The willingness to stop the very instant success had already been achieved. That quality could not be measured by sensors or displayed on a scoreboard. It lived entirely inside character. The glowing timer still hovered above the platform for everyone to see. 5.0 seconds. Yet, General Arya realized the most important decision of the entire exercise had happened after the clock had already stopped. No one spoke for nearly 20 seconds. The silence carried more weight than applause ever could. Above the training platform, the frozen timer continued displaying the same bright white number while hundreds of recording drones remained suspended in perfect stillness. Logan Brooks never looked at the display. His attention stayed respectfully focused on General Arya Voss, waiting for the next instruction instead of expecting recognition. Across the observation level, senior officers quietly reviewed the telemetry streaming across transparent screens. Every measurement agreed with what their eyes had already witnessed. Timing: precise. Balance: stable. Technique: textbook. Applied pressure: minimal. Recovery: immediate. Chief Training Officer Marcus Hale slowly lowered his tablet and looked toward the instructors standing beside him. Did anyone detect unnecessary force? One instructor shook her head. None. Another expanded the replay into slow motion. The projection revealed every movement frame by frame. Logan had redirected momentum instead of overpowering it. The controlled wrist restraint existed for less than 2 seconds before he released it voluntarily the instant the evaluation tone sounded. Marcus nodded almost imperceptibly. He completed the exercise exactly as designed. General Arya remained at the center of the platform, her calm expression revealing little despite the growing curiosity surrounding her. She looked toward Logan once again. Cadet Brooks. Yes, General. When the timer stopped, why did you release immediately? Logan answered without hesitation. Because the objective had already been achieved. You understood you held the advantage. Yes, General. You also understood that no instructor ordered you to let go. Logan nodded once. That is correct. General Arya folded her hands behind her back. Then why surrender the advantage? The arena grew silent again. Thousands of cadets leaned forward, sensing that this question mattered far more than the demonstration itself. Logan took a slow breath before answering. Because an advantage is temporary. Responsibility is permanent. Several instructors exchanged thoughtful glances. Logan continued in the same steady voice. The scenario measured judgment. Continuing after the exercise ended would have answered a different question. General Arya watched him carefully. What question? Logan's expression remained calm. Whether I valued winning more than discipline. The words settled across the arena with quiet force. Marcus Hale closed the replay screen without another comment. He no longer needed it. General Arya slowly walked around Logan in a thoughtful circle. Your father taught you that? Logan allowed himself the smallest smile. Every Saturday morning. A faint ripple of amusement passed through several cadets before fading into attentive silence. He trained rescue teams, Logan continued. He always said that people remember the moment you stop almost as much as the moment you act. Anyone can keep applying pressure. Character appears when you know it is time to release it. General Arya stopped directly in front of him again. For the first time since entering the arena, a subtle warmth softened her otherwise disciplined expression. Interesting philosophy for someone who never served in the military. Logan answered honestly. He believed rescuing people required the same self-control as protecting them. The general slowly turned toward the thousands of cadets filling the arena. Every one of you observed identical movements. She paused briefly before continuing. Yet not all of you witnessed the same lesson. She gestured toward the frozen timer above them. Many will remember 5 seconds. Her hand lowered toward Logan. The Academy will remember what happened after those 5 seconds. The statement echoed through the chamber before fading into complete silence once again. No one applauded. No one celebrated. The atmosphere felt too thoughtful for either response. Somewhere in the upper observation gallery, an elderly tactical instructor quietly whispered to a colleague, "Technique can be copied." The colleague nodded. "Judgment cannot." General Arya finally faced Logan one last time. "Cadet Brooks." "Yes, General." "Remain available after today's evaluations." Logan answered immediately. "Yes, General." He did not ask why. He simply acknowledged the instruction with the same calm discipline he had shown from the beginning. As General Arya stepped away to continue the Academy assessment, she understood something that surprised even her. The morning evaluation had never been intended to identify the Academy's most promising fighter. Without announcing it to anyone, she had already found someone far more difficult to train. A future officer who understood that true strength was measured not by the moment control was gained, but by the wisdom to release it when the mission was complete. By late afternoon, the Academy had returned to its familiar rhythm. Yet nothing truly felt familiar anymore. Training groups rotated through simulation chambers, navigation laboratories, and tactical classrooms exactly according to schedule, but every corridor carried the same quiet conversation. Cadets who had witnessed the morning evaluation spoke in careful voices, while those who had not searched for anyone willing to describe what had happened inside Combat Instruction Hall 3. Some claimed the human possessed extraordinary speed. Others insisted the general had intentionally allowed the outcome. The official recording remained sealed, leaving only observation and memory to shape the growing story. Logan Brooks paid almost no attention to the rumors. After completing his afternoon engineering lecture, he walked toward the Academy library carrying 3 navigation manuals beneath one arm. Along the way, he noticed an elderly maintenance technician struggling to replace a damaged ceiling light nearly 12 feet above the corridor floor. Without hesitation, Logan steadied the ladder while the technician completed the repair. When the work was finished, the older man thanked him warmly. Logan simply smiled, wished him a good afternoon, and continued toward the library without mentioning the encounter to anyone. Several cadets who had been discussing the morning demonstration quietly watched him disappear around the corner. One finally spoke. "He acts like nothing happened." Another answered, "Maybe that is exactly why something happened." Inside the library, the atmosphere contrasted sharply with the noise spreading throughout the Academy. Warm amber lighting reflected across polished wooden tables, while shelves stretching nearly 40 feet toward the ceiling preserved printed histories from hundreds of civilizations. Logan selected a quiet corner overlooking the transparent observation wall, where distant stars drifted slowly beyond the station. He opened his navigation manual and resumed studying orbital mechanics as though the day had been entirely ordinary. Nearly 30 minutes passed before soft footsteps approached his table. Logan looked up and immediately stood. General Arya Voss had entered without escort, carrying only a thin data folder beneath one arm. Her silver command uniform appeared unchanged, yet the intensity in her pale gray eyes had softened into thoughtful curiosity. She gestured toward the empty chair across from him. "May I?" Logan nodded respectfully. "Of course, General." She sat without ceremony and glanced briefly at the open textbook. "You returned to class." Logan smiled faintly. The schedule did not change. Many cadets would have spent the afternoon discussing the evaluation. Logan closed the book carefully before answering. Discussion does not improve tomorrow's performance. A quiet silence settled between them. It felt comfortable rather than awkward. Finally, General Arya placed the thin data folder on the table, but did not open it. Do you know what today's exercise was actually measuring? Logan considered the question. Judgment under pressure. She slowly shook her head. That was what every cadet believed. Her expression remained calm. The actual examination was different. Logan listened without interrupting. For the past 7 years, she continued, I have repeated the same evaluation with the Academy's highest-scoring cadets. Every participant demonstrated technical excellence. Nearly all of them continued applying control after the exercise officially ended. Some believed they were proving determination. Others believed they were ensuring victory. She paused before looking directly into Logan's eyes. Not one of them released immediately. Logan lowered his gaze briefly toward the tabletop. I did not know that. I know. The general allowed the smallest smile. That is precisely why your decision matters. She opened the folder and revealed dozens of evaluation reports filled with identical conclusions. Outstanding technique. Incomplete restraint. Logan quietly examined the pages without touching them. You expected another result today. Yes. She looked toward the stars beyond the library window. Instead, I found someone who never realized there was anything extraordinary about stopping when the exercise was over. Logan answered with complete sincerity. General, my father would have considered any other choice a failure. General Arya slowly closed the folder. Then your father taught something this academy has struggled to teach for generations. She rose from the chair and prepared to leave before pausing beside the table. Cadet Brooks, tomorrow morning I will present my final evaluation report to the Command Council. Logan stood immediately. Yes, General. Her voice became quieter than before. Not everyone will agree with my conclusions. Logan remained composed. That is all right. She studied him for a final moment. Why? Logan answered with the same steady confidence that had defined every conversation they had shared. Because the truth does not become weaker simply because it is questioned. General Arya nodded once before walking silently toward the library doors, carrying with her the certainty that the greatest challenge waiting tomorrow would not come from a training platform. It would come from those who believed discipline could exist without wisdom. The Command Council assembled before sunrise inside the highest chamber of the Galactic Military Academy, where a circular wall of transparent crystal overlooked the silent curve of a blue planet turning far below. Soft morning light from the station's artificial dawn reflected across a polished black conference table surrounded by senior officers whose uniforms represented nearly every civilization within the Alliance. No voices filled the room at first. Only the quiet sound of digital reports, opening one after another, disturbed the silence. General Arya Voss stood at the head of the table, holding a single evaluation file. Unlike the others, she carried a printed copy rather than a holographic display. Across from her, Admiral Kareth Soul regarded the document with measured skepticism. His distinguished career stretched across 4 decades of military leadership, and his reputation for discipline was known throughout Allied space. He folded his hands calmly before speaking. General Voss, your recommendation has attracted unusual attention. Arya nodded once. I expected it would. Another council member leaned forward. Your report states that Cadet Logan Brooks demonstrated exemplary judgment despite being only a first-year student. Correct. Yet several instructors believe he embarrassed a commanding officer during a public evaluation. The room grew quiet again. Arya did not answer immediately. Instead, she placed the printed report gently on the table where everyone could see the final assessment. Outstanding restraint. Exceptional discipline. Recommended for advanced leadership development. Admiral Soul read the final sentence twice before lifting his eyes. General, perception matters. Thousands of cadets witnessed the exercise. Adian Suratkalmdi. They did. Many now believe a first-year human exceeded a senior commander. She met his gaze without hesitation. No, They witnessed a cadet who understood when an exercise had ended. Several council members exchanged thoughtful glances. One instructor quietly activated the official recording. The enormous display above the conference table illuminated with the same scene that had stunned the academy the previous day. The timer counted upward. General Arya advanced. Logan responded. 5 seconds later, the tone, signaling completion, echoed through the arena. The recording paused. Admiral Sol pointed toward the frozen image. Continue. The playback resumed in slow motion. Every movement unfolded with remarkable clarity. Logan immediately released the training hold before stepping backward into academy-ready position. No celebración. No unnecessary movement. No attempt to prolong the advantage. Only disciplined restraint. The room remained silent until the recording ended. Chief Training Officer Marcus Hale finally spoke. I have reviewed this sequence 37 times. He looked around the table. Not once did the cadet exceed academy protocol. Another officer frowned slightly. Then why does this evaluation feel so unusual? Marcus answered quietly. Because we are accustomed to rewarding decisive action. We rarely reward the decision to stop. General Arya stepped closer to the observation window, overlooking the academy far below. Hundreds of cadets crossed the central courtyard, completely unaware that their future training philosophy was being debated above them. Yesterday, she said softly, I did not discover the academy's strongest cadet. She paused while watching the orderly movement below. I discovered the cadet least likely to misuse strength after receiving authority. The words lingered throughout the chamber. Admiral Sol slowly removed his reading glasses and placed them beside the report. General, are you suggesting this single exercise should influence academy policy? Arya turned back toward the council. No. Her voice remained composed. I am suggesting it should remind us why the policy exists. Another long silence followed. Finally, the oldest council member, Chancellor Miriam Ross, who had spoken only rarely throughout the meeting, closed the evaluation folder with deliberate care. Her silver hair framed a thoughtful expression marked by decades of experience. Military history remembers victories, she said quietly. Civilization remembers character. She looked directly at General Arya. Your recommendation is approved. Around the table, one by one, the remaining council members nodded in agreement. There was no applause. No dramática announcement. Only quiet acceptance that something important had been recognized. As the meeting concluded, General Arya glanced once more through the crystal wall. Far below, Logan Brooks walked across the academy courtyard carrying a stack of navigation manuals beneath one arm, completely unaware that the greatest victory of his life had taken place in a room where he had never spoken a single word. The official academy announcement arrived just before noon. No dramatic ceremony interrupted the daily schedule. No emergency signal echoed through the station. Instead, every classroom display quietly illuminated with the same message, carrying the seal of the Galactic Military Academy. Faculty and cadets were instructed to assemble inside the Hall of Honor at 1300 hours for a leadership recognition briefing. Curiosity spread through the campus almost immediately. Logan Brooks read the notice while leaving his orbital mechanics class, then simply placed his data tablet back into his bag and continued helping another cadet organize navigation charts before heading toward the assembly. He assumed the briefing concerned the academy itself rather than any individual. The Hall of Honor gradually filled with thousands of cadets wearing formal academy uniforms. Brilliant white light poured through the transparent dome above, reflecting across polished marble floors until the entire chamber seemed surrounded by quiet sunlight despite drifting through deep space. Officers lined the upper observation balconies while instructors stood beside their assigned training groups. Every conversation faded the moment Commander Marcus Hale announced the arrival of General Arya Voss. She entered without unnecessary ceremony, carrying only a small dark blue presentation case. The room settled into complete silence. General Arya walked slowly to the center platform and looked across the sea of future officers standing before her. Yesterday, she began calmly. Many of you believed you witnessed a demonstration of technique. She paused briefly. You did not. Her pale gray eyes moved across the hall before resting momentarily on Logan, who stood quietly among hundreds of first-year cadets. You witnessed a demonstration of restraint. A large display illuminated behind her, showing only one still image from the evaluation. It was not the instant Logan established the training hold. It was the moment immediately afterward, when he had already stepped back into academy-ready position with his hands behind his back. The image remained on the screen without explanation. General Arya continued. This academy has always taught that strength without discipline is incomplete. Yesterday, one cadet reminded every instructor, including me, that discipline without humility is equally incomplete. A respectful silence settled over the chamber. Logan lowered his eyes slightly, clearly uncomfortable with becoming the center of attention. He had expected to disappear into another ordinary training day. Instead, every cadet now stood facing the lesson he never intended to create. General Arya opened the small presentation case and removed a simple Silver Academy insignia no larger than 2 inches across. Unlike military decorations awarded for campaigns or competitive achievement, this emblem carried no elaborate design. Only a single engraved circle surrounding the Academy crest. She addressed the assembly once more. The Leadership Council has unanimously approved the restoration of an honor that has not been presented for nearly 20 years. Several instructors exchanged surprised glances. They recognized the insignia immediately. The Academy awarded it only when technical excellence and personal character were considered inseparable. General Arya called calmly, Cadet Logan Brooks. Logan stepped forward through the silent formation until he reached the center platform. His posture remained composed, his expression respectful rather than proud. He stopped exactly 6 feet from the general and stood at attention. General Arya looked directly into his eyes. Cadet Brooks, yesterday you completed the exercise in 5 seconds. The Academy remembers you because you understood the next second mattered even more. She gently placed the silver insignia into his open hand instead of pinning it onto his uniform. Several younger cadets looked confused by the gesture. General Arya explained without looking away from Logan. Honors placed upon a uniform can be removed. Principles accepted by choice cannot. Logan closed his hand around the insignia for a brief moment before answering quietly. Thank you, General. She smiled faintly. Do not thank me. Her voice remained soft enough that only the nearest rows clearly heard every word. Thank the person who first taught you when to let go. Logan immediately thought of a modest rescue training building in Colorado, early Saturday mornings, worn practice mats, the smell of fresh coffee, and his father's patient voice repeating the same lesson until it became part of who he was. He looked back toward the general. I will. Around the Hall of Honor, thousands of future officers remained completely silent. No applause interrupted the moment. Somehow silence honored the lesson far better than celebration ever could. Every person present understood that the smallest object in a room carried the greatest meaning, not because it recognized remarkable skill, but because it reminded an entire generation that the highest form of strength had always been the wisdom to stop the moment duty was fulfilled. 10 years passed more quietly than anyone inside the Galactic Military Academy had expected. New cadets arrived every season carrying polished uniforms, ambitious dreams, and the same nervous determination that had filled those corridors for generations. Training technology evolved. Simulation systems became more sophisticated. New member civilizations joined the alliance, bringing unfamiliar traditions and remarkable ideas. Yet one lesson never changed. On the first morning of every leadership course, instructors gathered their students inside Combat Instruction Hall 3 before any technical training began. The massive arena looked almost identical to the day that had quietly altered the Academy's understanding of strength. bright white light still reflected across the polished training floor. The transparent dome still revealed distant stars drifting beyond the station. The digital timer remained suspended above the center platform, carefully preserved, although newer systems had long replaced its outdated technology. Every first-year cadet eventually asked the same question. Why had the academy never upgraded it? The answer always arrived without a lecture. Chief instructors simply activated an archived recording. Thousands of young officers watched two familiar figures appear beneath the academy lights. General Arya Voss stepped forward with calm confidence. A young human cadet named Logan Brooks stood opposite her with respectful composure. The recording stopped exactly where history had chosen to remember it. Not when the training exercise began. Not when the timer reached 5 seconds. Instead, it paused at the precise instant Logan voluntarily stepped backward and returned to academy-ready position after the evaluation had already ended. The instructor would then ask only one question. When did leadership begin? Every class offered different answers. Some pointed toward technical skill. Others mentioned emotional control. A few recognized disciplined restraint. None of the instructors corrected them immediately. They simply invited every cadet to watch the recording one more time. Usually the silence that followed became the real lesson. General Arya Voss eventually retired from active command after decades of distinguished service and accepted the role of chancellor, where she continued shaping future officers with the same quiet integrity that had defined her career. Visitors often noticed one unusual item displayed inside her office. It was not a medal. It was not an award. It was a simple printed photograph showing two figures standing several feet apart beneath the academy lights after a completed training exercise. No explanation accompanied the image because none was necessary. Those who understood the story already knew why it mattered. Those who did not could still feel its meaning. Logan Brooks completed his education with honors before accepting a commission into the Alliance Exploration Fleet. Reports describing his leadership gradually spread across distant systems. Crews respected him not because he sought recognition, but because he listened before speaking, read every mission briefing completely, and never confused authority with entitlement. Whenever younger officers asked where he had learned those habits, he always smiled in the same quiet way before answering. Someone taught me that the hardest part of leadership begins after everyone believes you have already succeeded. He never mentioned his own name. He always spoke instead about a rescue instructor from Colorado who believed that strength existed to protect, never to impress. Years later, one young cadet lingered inside the Academy Museum after orientation had ended. Among countless exhibits displaying remarkable spacecraft, historic uniforms, and famous commanders, the student discovered a small silver insignia resting inside a modest glass case. The display carried only one sentence beneath it. The greatest demonstration of strength is knowing the exact moment it is no longer needed. The student looked toward the elderly curator and quietly asked, "Who earned this?" The curator smiled gently before answering. Someone who understood that winning was never the point. No further explanation followed. Outside the museum, another generation of cadets crossed the academy courtyard beneath brilliant artificial sunlight, preparing for careers that would carry them across countless worlds. Some would become exceptional strategists. Others would design new starships or negotiate lasting peace between civilizations separated by light years. Every one of them would eventually discover that true leadership could not be measured by speed, strength, or applause. It revealed itself only in the quiet moment when a person possessed every reason to continue, yet chose instead to stop because duty had already been fulfilled. Beyond the transparent dome, the stars continued their endless journey through the darkness, silent witnesses to a simple truth that outlived every uniform, every rank, and every generation. Character is remembered long after victory becomes history.